Why, hello, everybody. As you can see, the show's a little bit late. I took care of Glenn. I came over today, and all my games are gone. I don't know where all my shit went. So I took care of Glenn, and I brought Rev on here to talk a little bit, because Glenn's not worth talking about today. And to be quite honest, Glenn shouldn't be talking to him anyway. He's too much of a pussy.
Wow. That is intense, my man.
Well, I want to thank you to the Negan show.
I appreciate it, man. I like that. Is that a dude? You got a full bat and
there's a little bit of a problem. See, this is not my normal Lucille. The last time I saw Glenn, we had a little issue with Tron, and I used the MCP to trap him for a little bit, and he apparently took Lucille with him. So somewhere on the grid is my Lucille. This is just a bat with a dog chain on it. And I still haven't found it. So after this show, I'm going to have a little talk with Glenn to find out where in the grid he put my beautiful Lucille. But in the meantime, I know Glenn wanted to have you on here because I did see something that you kind of did for him. You know, I know we had this flood here. Apparently, all the stuff is gone. The basement's ruined. It's ruined. But you sent something over to him, which was kind of nice. This dweeb didn't deserve it, but you sent over a nice thing that I think Bobby Vu had made. Is that true?
That's true, my friend. That's true. I actually, I got lucky. I had a moment where the sun shined on a dog's ass, and I wound up getting third place to win the ultimate prize of the Bobby Vu custom cab. And it's amazing cab. It's this beautiful cabinet, beautiful artwork, a lot of games, amazing intro. And it sat in the corner at my house. It was just one of these things that it just didn't have a good home. I'm very selective with the games I play, you know, and I already have a multicade. So it was essentially a multicade. And I already had one. So I thought, man, when I heard your story, I was like,
You mean
dude,
that
if I was in that
dumbass's
boat, and
story? Because my place
I'm
is
not that
fine.
far from it. Yeah, I apologize, Negan. I apologize. Yeah. So, when I heard Glenn's story, it was on Kong's stream, and I was like, man, like, I was always kind of raised up like you want to be treated like you want to treat others how you were treated, right? So it was one of those things where I thought an opportunity to give some good karma out to the world, give a good arcade a good home, and kind of put a little cherry on top for a man who needed
Well,
a
that
needed
was
a little
most
touch in his
kind. It may end
basement.
up
So
in the Negan lair, but we'll see where it ends up for the final spot. So I know I actually saw you were on the other
I
day.
dig
I've
it.
seen you on a couple of live shows, but I know you have your own channel as well. You have a lot of different interesting things on your channel. Can you tell us a little bit about your channel? Put the quarters on the glass.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. No worries. So ultimately, Negan, you might like it because when you think about put your quarters on the glass, you're going to think about a dog eat dog world where it's mano a mano and only the strong survive. And so we highlight that using the retro community. So we look at your X-Men versus Street Fighter, your Marvel versus Capcom, your Big Blue, ultimately your fighting game cabinets, and soon Killer Instinct, where we highlight the community. We actually bring them together and have them fight. We get some really good prizes. And about once a quarter, I'll throw a large tournament where we like to have, about 30, 40 people if we can. Got a lot of prize support in the last one, which was awesome. And we're looking forward to a new one rounding the new year where we'll do a Marvel versus Capcom, and it'll have
So you're doing a lot of
a whole lot of
tournaments,
surprises for
right?
everybody. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, yeah. So I do I call it the I call it the Friday night Waffle House Rumble. Like if you go to any Waffle House on Friday night in Atlanta, around the greater Atlanta area, around 3 a.m., they all turn into a Street Fighter game. They all do. So it's pretty sweet. You're bound to see some entertainment. And so I took my past experience of seeing that Waffle House and brought it to my channel. And so every Friday we compete in something. Now, that being said, those of you out there in the retro world who are thinking, man, I don't want to play fighting games. Big Blue, we actually just did our first Big Blue event last week, or not last week, the week before, and it was Super Puzzle Fighter. And we actually had like 10 people sign up. It was crazy. So $50 cash. It was a small one. The one for this Friday is Super Turbo. So for those of you looking, you go to Challenge, you can look up Retro Fight Game Community on the challenge.com website, and you can see some really awesome opportunities to pick up. Now, granted, you're saying, hey, I may not play Street Fighter that well. I'm not good. Well, there's no entry fee, and you have a chance to win prizes. And last time we did it, we did Marvel. We had first, second, and third prize all the way up. So, and that was community driven. That is grassroots driven. That is the people who are engaged in the community are saying, I want to throw more skin in the game. I want to cut off some bacon and make that breakfast extra spicy, and they're giving up their own, which is great. And so again, Negan, it's something where someone like you who thrives on the strong surviving and the
Now
weak
that's
being
interesting. Now,
cold,
what
I
got you
think you'll
started in
enjoy it,
all
my
of
friend.
this? I mean, what really? Because I see you got some games behind you, but what got you really involved to this level?
It's a really good question. So, I mean, going forwards, I threw tournaments back in the early 2000s here in the Twin Cities area with a friend of mine, Mike Z, and we ran a few of those. Kind of always liked organizing. Kind of always like working in an organizational type function, and administratively, I'm strong. So most people don't like dealing with that headache of when you run an organizational thing like a tournament. So doing that, we had a couple early ones when the Marvel versus Capcom cab came out. We had some really good feedback, some really good community engagement. The first Marvel
Wow.
Capcom tournament went up to 30 people, which was, oh, Negan, it was 3 days of culling the week. I mean, it took forever. So a lot of those early tournaments were learning examples using the retro fight game platform, that Big Blue or that Marvel versus Capcom / X-Men versus Street Fighter cabinets, because it was the first time that anyone has actually used the arcade one-up fighting game structure to build out like that kind of an event, at least to my knowledge. And so it worked out very successful because the community said, this is awesome. We want to continue with this. And they really engaged back. And there's some pillars out there. Every Friday night, we try to highlight them. We bring them on. We do post-fight interviews. We
At the
give people
best
the
part.
opportunity to trash talk each other. And then we have fun with it. Oh, it is. It really is. And we got some characters out there. There's some people out there who are stone cold killers. And then there's some people who are, they're fun. They know what they're doing, but they're not necessarily killers. They just enjoy the game and they enjoy the trash talk. And so that's really
So
what we
you
like
already
to
got a
highlight
pretty
in
good,
the feature.
like a community of doing this. Is it the same people who join all the time? And are there different like tiers? Like you said, some people are better than others. Do you kind of put the wimps with the wimps and then the beasts with the beasts?
Yeah. So part of that on the challenge website that we're building out is a true ranking system. And so you kind of highlight, Negan, it's kind of a sore spot, right? And that is the current system that they use on the Arcade One Up platform is flawed in that you can farm for XP, you can avoid the fights that will actually put you in a position to challenge your skill set by just simply running. And for a lack of a better term, a scientific term that we coined ourselves here in the retro fight game community is bitch assitis. People suffer from this. And so, we're here to give people those daily doses of penicillin, the true cure. You have to stand up and you take your losses, you take your wins, and you grow. And then, ultimately, we do want to build out. Now, part of that site that I put in the chat there, that challenge site, that allows you to see a true ranking system. It allows us to actually see, okay, take aside a broken XP system chasing a color circle around your name, who is really the best? And so we're building that out. Now, it takes time. Obviously, we have some names that we are very familiar with, your Morphus 56Ks, your Eddie Goods, your Just Riches, those guys, Storm Queens, those are really good players who are known internationally as great players. You have other people like your Footy Laughs, who are casual players who really engaged in the community in a way that has brought people together and that has really enjoyed growing that community. And shout outs to a guy like Footy Laughs or Boise, some of the other community founders that really helped grow
Now,
those
if you
things
know a guy
in a
named Console
positive way.
Fanboy, he goes by the name of Zoha. Have you heard of that guy?
I do. He's a music
How
collaborator.
does
that
he
I have
fare in these
a
games? I
much
know he went up
respect
against
for.
John. He was trash talking John D for a while in Street Fighter, for like a year, and then apparently John D wiped the floor with him in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So how does he do in these tournaments?
He has not played in a tournament yet, Glenn. I think, or Negan. I think, respectfully, I think what we're looking at is a situation where, remember when Negan
Lucille
met
sure
Glenn
remembers
for the
that.
first time? It didn't end well for Glenn. Yeah. So I think, the idea behind that is console fanboy would not appreciate Negan coming to town to make sure that he, participates in these competitions. I don't think that would happen. I think console fanboy and Negan would
No,
not have
not at all. But I just want to know if
productive
he's
conversation.
playing it, what kind of tier he would go into. So maybe we'll find out in the future. It's okay. I know he's a big Mortal Kombat more than a Street Fighter guy anyway. He's like a Mortal Kombat, I don't want to say nut job. Who am I to call people nuts, right? But I know that's more of his style. Now I see you got the Street Fighter behind you. What is your favorite fighter that you enjoy?
Yeah, it's a great question. It kind of goes back on the arcade one-up cabinets. My favorite is definitely your Marvel versus Capcom right now, Marvel Capcom 1. Now, obviously, long-term, fingers crossed, hashtag free MVC2. I'm really hopeful that Marvel versus Capcom 2 will be on the arcade one-up cabinet, and we'll see some cross-platform play with Marvel Capcom 2. That would be where I'd rest
I
my
have
vote
to
for
kind of
best
agree,
fighting
though.
game of
I'm
all
definitely
time for
more of
me.
a Mortal Kombat guy, but I also like Tekken. Tekken is a really good game that I seem to enjoy. I have to admit, Street Fighter, I never got good at it. I mean, to be honest, I think I played Cool Toy once, and I think he fell asleep, and he still took care of me. I was just not good at it.
It's an acquired flavor, and a lot of people, I think, it's weird, like you and I came up in the arcade days where it was very polarizing in a lot of ways, right? There was when you think about it, Negan, come back to those days with me. We had our East Coast, West Coast, right? You had your Lakers, Celtics, you had your
Correct.
Mortal Kombat and your Street Fighter. And when you looked at that, the people that, at least in my experience, a lot of the people who were shunned by Street Fighter for whatever reason, the 2D, the combo system, the buttons, whatever, they really loved Mortal Kombat. They adopted it. They fell in love with the gore, with the violence, with the controversy, with the idea that I don't have to hold back to block, I hold a button. Those kind of functions really, I think, brought out the people who left the Street Fighter fight game community. It brought them back
Now,
into
I
the
have to
fight
ask
game
you a very
community in
tough
a different
question.
way,
Now, a
which
lot
is
of times when I
beautiful.
ask certain questions like this, they can't answer it, but I'm going to at least put it towards you. You obviously are a fighting guy. You know the fighting games.
Okay.
What game do you feel is the better fighter as far as moves, special moves? I mean, overall, what is the better fighting game? I know I said it's Mortal Kombat. That's my personal taste. From your personal taste, what do you find to be the better fighter?
Yeah. You know, I'll be honest. So I stopped playing all fighting games in 2003 and didn't pick it up until I bought a Marvel versus Capcom arcade cabinet for Arcade One Up. So that 20-year gap has a lot of ignorance. Now, with that being said, outside of that 20-year gap, my friend, I think one of the games that I would call out, and there's two that I would call out as kind of like the, the cream of the crop, so to speak, right? One of them I think is Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo. I think that was one of their best attempts at balancing a game and creating a game where each character brought a flavor and archetype that was somewhat unique to all others. And it really, obviously I'm glorifying and romanticizing a time period in my life where it was fun to play Street Fighter, but also on the flip side of that, my friend, the other one is an under-mentioned game called Capcom versus SNK2. That CVS2 game it's on the arcade, it's on the Dreamcast. It is a fantastic fighting game that takes the best of your SNK games, your Samurai Showdowns, your King of Fighters, all those Last Blades, all those really cool Konami Korean fighting games, or Japanese, sorry. No disrespect. And then it melds them with your Capcom style, your Street Fighters, your Final Fights. They take characters from all sorts of aspects, and then it takes different systems and gives you the full function to mess with it in between. It's a fantastic underrated game, and I'm really hopeful, given that SNK is a super easy license to apparently work with, and given that John's already locked up Capcom, I'm hoping that we see
I'll tell you,
CVS2 in the near
the
future from
Neo
Arcade
Geo
One Up
had
as
a
well.
multitude of really good fighters. King of Fighters, I almost forgot about it, but I really enjoyed that game. There's a lot of good fighters on that Neo Geo system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People really get into Neo Geo, but
Mm-hmm.
now aside from the arcades, I see you like that. What do you like outside that? Do you have a favorite console you currently are playing? What's your favorite console of all time? Of course, it could be the Atari 2600 because everyone loves that. But don't let me put words in your mouth. You tell me what you like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I think ultimately, first and foremost, is my big baby back there. I got to give her love. She cost me an arm and a leg, right? So, pinball is still to this day the video game that you cannot memorize. It's the it's the ultimate experience of analog video games that my dad grew up with. I grew up with that I wanted to be able to deliver to my kids. So I'd say pinball is where the heart lies. Now, outside of that, my friend, make no mistake, I go hog wild on Call of Duty. Lately, I have been fully engrossed with Call of Duty as I'm getting ready for that new expansion that they're coming out with. So I've really been hammering home on first person shooters, but it's a deep rabbit hole, my friend. When you talk video games and Rev, man, it goes MMORPGs, check that box. Overhead RTSs, check that box. Mainly computer gaming. I will be clarifying, right? That's kind of one thing people will be like, I'm noticing a trend. Not a lot of action platformers. I'm not a big console gamer. I was an arcade Street Fighter fan, and then I moved into PC gaming. And while I've played your Arkham Knights and your amazing Grand Theft Autos and whatnot, my heart goes back to
So
some of
now,
those
is that a
PC games
pinball?
that I just mentioned.
Was
So,
it purchased new, or is it a restore? Or tell me a little bit about history of that pinball machine.
bro, that's a bad mamma jamma, and she will take your soul if you don't play with her often. So, that's Bag Bitch, right? She's a mean one. She's number 149 of 250 LEs, bought and brand new. I got the Surdy inside the belly. So if you open it up, it does have a working real coin door for those wondering. It could be commercialized. That was my gift. So part of my lifestyle has been a gypsy. I've moved around with my company, different organizations, and just in general, I moved around a lot. And so one of the things for moving back to the Twin Cities after I graduated college, did a whole tour of the world, had an opportunity. My wife said, "Hey, let's move back to Minnesota. It's a good spot to live." So we said, "Okay." And in doing so, I said, "All right, if we're going to lock down a home, then Daddy gets a small arcade in the basement, starting with a pinball." And so she said, "Okay, all right." And so I knew I had one. It's like you got one shot. I got one shot. Negan, you got one opportunity to make this count. One pinball to make it count. So I called the local spot in town and I said, "I'm going to be buying a pinball. I don't care what the price is. These are the pinballs I would like to experience." And this place is a really cool spot here in the Twin Cities. They brought all in for me. They brought in like 6 different pinballs. So they had Ghostbusters, they had X-Men, they had WrestleMania, they had all the ones that I asked for. They couldn't get all the LEs though. So I asked for some to be LEs, like Monster Madness. And so in doing so, this was one of the LEs on the list, and it just feels so good to play. The ramp work is amazing. The field is unforgiving. There's magnetics built in, so you really get the feel of, oh my God, Magneto. And it's just fun. Like it's an engaging pinball game that lets you know like where the action is and
Now,
where to go.
being
And
so
I have a lot of
into
fun
the
with it.
pinball
So
that you are,
that's
do
my
you
baby.
have one of the V pins from like Arcade One Up or Ad Games? Do you have one of those? And if so, how do you feel about them?
I don't. So here's why. Twofold. I've been really, really, really torn, Negan. Like you, when you got one zombie over on your left side with no arms and a side with no legs, which one do you kill first, right? So for me, I watched some of these Bobby Voo conversions, these big box, amazing conversions, and I thought, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. It's time to open the Waffle House. Man, my hat fell. No, I thought, man, let's do this. And my wife would look at me and she's like, don't. And so I talked to Kong and I asked Kong, I said, "Kong, you got one of the most tricked out pinball cabinets that's a V pin. What do you think?" And he was like, "Dude, listen, real pinball is real pinball." He's like, "There is no substitute." So my thought is I'm going to get one more chance, right? I'm going to get a second bite at the apple in the future. And when I do, I think I'm going to get a Deadpool. Either that or Infinity Wars, the new Avengers right now, right? But I think I'll get another pinball, my friend. I can't do V-pin. It's one, it doesn't get the right feel. While you get all the tables, you get this digital experience, and I love the analog of pinball. I really love the feeling of, that's why I play tabletop strategy games too. I play like, stupid board games, right? And I love that. I love that turn-based strategy.
I can understand that.
aspect
When I'm
behind it as
hitting
well.
people
So,
like
I don't know.
Glenn with the bat, Lucille, it's very different than a zombie. It's not. It's still fun, but it's not the same kind of reaction when you're beating them down.
Right. And so, and even like Kong was saying, he's like, "Dude, I put in bumpers, solenoids, rumblers, shakers, movers, everything. It still just doesn't touch the experience." And so because of that, that's kind of why I've stayed away from the V-pin, knowing that long term, I'll get another baby in here and she'll have
Now, did you watch by chance the Kong's
roommate.
live
So
stream where Mrs. Kong's kind of crawled into that Tron and you heard that? Did you happen to see that stream?
Negan, I was laughing so hard. The only thing that made me laugh harder was when you took Rick out and you let him know who really
See his
is running the
face?
real
He was
world.
scared.
That was amazing. Oh yeah. The best part really is her face. Because she was like,
she
"Oh,
did.
shit."
She
You could
did.
tell she was like, it was great, man. You could tell she was definitely like,
I think that one thing alone would allow Kong to buy 3 or 4 machines without any trouble. I think that alone is going to make that happen. But I got to say, that Tron, I have to admit, that was a beautiful looking machine. It really was. I know the arcade machines are a different animal than the pinball. And I agree with you that the V-pins will never, I mean, you can go really for $4,000 or $5,000 on a V-pin, and it's still not going to be completely the same because we put in
Right.
all these different kind of tables on the one. Something's lost. That's sort of like when you buy, I'm going to say, a
Right.
ColecoVision or an Atari, and you buy a multi-cart, right? There's still something about taking the actual cartridge of a game and putting it in versus one cart that's got everything on it. I can't explain it, but it's just a feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And and in the case of pinball versus V pinball, it literally is a feeling. I mean, it is a physical, moving, shaking feeling that you just can't replicate. So I don't know. I don't know. Negan, let me ask you, man.
You know what? I
Do you
made
own a V pin?
myself a 1/6 scale V pin. So I do have a small one, but I don't
Okay.
have a full size pinball or even a V pin yet. I've had monitors. You can see my place back here. It's the most dust free, I guess you would call it. But it's just time. If I'm going to build my own, you got to do it right, and I just haven't really had the time to do it. Now, real quick here. Well, even not so quick. How long you been married?
Oh
14 years.
God.
14 years.
14
And
years
she
married,
supports you, it looks like.
21
I've
together.
seen it in a couple of streams. She actually really enjoys this with you, right?
Yeah, it's been a renaissance. Like talk about a second
Now,
relationship.
when
It's been
you
awesome.
started doing all this, did she make any caveats she has to be doing it with you, or she really could care less what you do with your time?
No, she's always been supportive because she knows that it's just kind of if I don't do that, it'll be cognitive dissonance, right? It'll be the itch that I never scratch, and I'll wind up regretting it. And so, I talked her with it. I mean, she's the best person. I make sure she's in the loop on everything, and just handling it through with her, making sure she knew what was happening. She was supportive, and then once she actually, and this is where it's going to get weird because I was motivated by Kong. Kong was one of the influences, along with like Footy, to do what I do. And then when I showed her Mrs. Kong's R Us, I was like, see, you could do this. And she's like, all right, let me start with streaming. So she streams when she plays video games. And even from there, then she joined me on a Big Blue building stream one time. And I told her, I was like, just dress up as Ken. She loves cosplay. I was like, put on your Ken outfit. It's not too sexy. People will laugh. People will know it's Ken. And I was like, and then all you got to do is just read the chat to me. I'm just going to be building this thing. And from that moment, she was like, oh, I get this. This is fun. And I think the community during that Big Blue was really engaging to her and accepting. And once you kind of get that taste of like, hey, this is an embracing feeling that I don't always get everywhere, most people come back for it. And the community so far
Right.
has been
The community,
fantastic. It
for the
really has.
most part, is exactly that. They're very supportive. You have a lot of the people come out and help you out in any way, shape, or form. I can tell you, Glenn for sure knows that personally from everyone that reached out to him for his dog and everything else. But also, there's some dark sides to the community as
Yeah.
well. Have you had any experience on that side?
Yeah, I think any yeah, not major. I mean, like I think it's life and you're dealing with people, right? And I think anytime Negan you're dealing with people, I always go back to a few things. One, like hurt people hurt people. And so I always ask myself, like, if someone does me dirty, like, what's the root cause of it? Like, why would they disrespect or why would they take an angle? What did I do? Right? Like, how could I have adjusted my behavior? Could I have seen this coming? And a lot of it's self-reflection on myself. And so maybe what I've experienced as some darker side of the community as I'm self-evaluating or self-reflecting it on myself. But at the same time, I think I wanna put myself in a position where on my worst days, do I want that to be what people know me for? And so even on the experiences where and I have had a few experiences where people kind of did some things where I wasn't necessarily aligned with the direction that they worked on, or they maybe worked on a collaboration with me and then used the product in a way that I wasn't necessarily in line with, right? It was kind of weird. And so I took those moments to just say, okay, let me learn from them. Let me understand that I can always improve myself. And then also let's take away from this that these people, I shouldn't put them in a light where this one experience is how I categorize them, right? And so again, with that, I try to and some of those individuals that I've had a negative experience with, I've had positive experiences since then. So it could have been that one time. It could have been me again. It could be I had sausage for lunch and it sat funny. I always try to reflect on my own actions and how does this play out now. With that being said, you're right. There are some douchebags out there. I'm not going to deny that, right? Let's be real. Like, there's some people out there who are just straight up assholes. However, that being said, I got a good wife that can sniff out assholes as well. And so, if she gives me the spider senses or tingling feel, I stay away and I just avoid. And part of the other thing, Glenn, is weird, or Negan, I apologize, which is weird, is I try to stay in my lane. Like, I've noticed a lot of people have niches and they try to fulfill a creative itch for themselves, right? Whether it's Kong doing his Thursday streams, whether it's, the super game room dudes on Friday or whatever have you. I think as long as I've been authentic about who I am and not tried to be something that I'm not. Like, I've had a lot of people ask me, give me your opinions on products, do product reviews, do this, do that, do reaction videos. And it's not where my heart is. And so, like, I would do this all day. Like, this is where my heart is. Having a face-to-face, a man-to-man with one of the most dangerous men in the post-apocalyptic world. Absolutely. But I think, ultimately for me, I just want to be true to who I am. And that's kind of, it's led me through some successes recently. And so I'm just going to ride the wave. I don't look that gift horse in the mouth. And I just, fail forwards.
It looks like a few people in the chat, Council Fanboy, and a few others say that she's a natural. So I guess she's a good addition to your channel. Now, outside of all this, what do you like to do? I mean, this can't be something you do all the time. What else do you like doing besides this here, YouTube and streaming and fighting games? What else do you enjoy?
Yeah, so I do a lot of things, man. I guess I love doing some outdoorsy stuff, right? I'm a fisherman. Do love just going out and shooting.
Oh, okay. Target practice. I shoot fish.
No. So I'll hit up like the local thrift store. I'll stimulate the local economy. We'll spend $40 on your assortment of ceramic trash trinkets. And then we have some local spots here. Minnesota has a lot of rural areas. So when we're out in the rural areas, we go to a safe spot, either our family's land or what have you. And we set up a target practice on those damn gnomes and we show them who's boss. So that's one of the things we do. Now, the other part that I love, Glenn, is part of my job. And I can't go into too much, but my job allows me to travel. And so it's weird to say that one of my hobbies is also part of my job because, like, I love my job, what I do. And it comes with these benefits of being able to travel to places. And like, truthfully, I've met some amazing people. I've had some great experiences. And so, between family being first, work being second, streaming, hobby, gaming third, I have like small things, right? It's the small things.
So when you travel, you kind of find like local arcades type of stuff? Is that what you kind of do when you go out there?
Yeah, it depends on where I'm at. So I actually, for what it's worth in work situations, my territory is about 3/4 of the United States. So, like in January, I'll be in New York.
You should let Glenn know when you're up in the area.
New York. So, yeah. There's actually, yeah. So nonetheless, like that. Now, who the hell wants to travel to New York in January?
Well, it's better than going to Wisconsin, because I know I've been out that way.
Dude. Yeah. So the other spots is I have a lot of California business and a lot of Texas and a lot of Florida business. So it's everywhere where there's no winter and a lot of places where they have In-N-Out. So it's a win for me, right? And now I love to travel to arcades, right? So especially if I go back to Los Angeles, that's where I was born and raised. And so like if I go back to LA, I'm hitting my old stomping grounds, right? Like I love going back to old arcades and just being like, yeah, the old dude just beat all your asses. That's right. So I have fun with that. But if I'm up north, I'll reach out to some friends and see if we want to get together, grab some Filipino food or something like that.
Food, your favorite? Good times. I mean, like, for me, it's Taco Bell. They're not around anymore. They were burned to the ground. But I love my Taco Bell.
Yeah, and that's why I stick with the Filipino food, man. Whether it's a zombie cooking it or whether it's a true Filipino person, that Filipino food is amazing, my friend Negan. You're gonna want to get one of those around you. Get a zombie Filipino person who was a cook. Have them just be a zombie cooking Filipino food. You'll love it, man. It's amazing. But yeah, no, I up in the San Francisco area, I got a couple really good friends and family, and so it's awesome that that area has such a heavy influence from that part of the world. And the food is amazing, man. I mean, outstanding. And yeah, I mean, you could argue, are you a foodie? My stomach would say I am. My fat ass would say I am, right?
So
So
what's a
as much as I
good
try to say,
dish if
no,
I
I
was looking for
moderate.
one? What would I say
That's
look
tough.
forward to? As being a newbie to Filipino food.
Dude, so there's two things. So lumpia is your appetizer of
Oompa
choice.
Loompas?
It's
You
real
guys cook
simple. It's
Oompa
basically
Loompas?
just like fried egg rolls. We do.
Wow.
We do. Yep. They're
I
really
thought I was
crunchy on the
bad.
outside, but they're soft and gooey on the inside. It's perfect. Perfect, bro. And then the other one that I would recommend is an adobo. And it's like, so there's two things. There's this hash that he made, and I wish I knew the name of the hash, but there's an adobo. And adobo is like as Midwestern as you can get. Like if you picked up Iowa and dropped it in the middle of the Philippine Islands and said, hey, they're going to cook the pig and we're going to cook a pig this way, everyone in Iowa would be like, okay, cool, we're in. Let's do it. So the adobo pork, oh, it just falls off the bone.
So
It
does half
melts
the
in your mouth.
zombies I go
Negan,
next to.
it
The meat
is,
falls off the bones.
if you
Doesn't mean I
ever
want to
get
eat
back
it.
to a world. Hey.
And
Listen,
I see
think it's
Kong's
pretty good.
joining us in
I
the
think it's pretty
chat.
good.
Kong, we were talking about you, man. I hope everything's okay. I hope you're not divorcing Mrs. Kong's over that one little mishap with the Tron. She didn't mean it. I know P Dubs there was trying to edge it on, but it was an accident. She did not know there was a bottom in that machine. So don't divorce her. All right?
She's a good woman. She's a good woman. I think
But Kong,
I think Kong
I
will
do
keep
think
her
you can get a
around for
couple
now. That's for
consoles
sure.
and maybe another pinball machine, for guilt. Just saying.
He might be able to swing that. It's funny because I expected, like, when she came on the Sunday show, I expected her to have like little bruises on her arm from where he was shaking her. Like, what did you do? Nothing. He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. He treated her like a gentleman. So I give him props.
Oh,
I would have.
if Glenn can't even have a scratch on one of his boxes, imagine if that happened to his. Holy cow! I would not want to be in that place. I would run.
Yeah, it was bad news. But Kong, or maybe, let's be real, maybe he's scared of her. There might be something
you never
to
know.
that.
They say that men are
something
women
to that.
beaters, but you don't talk about the women who beat the men.
And she's got some fire under her belly there, man. Like she's got a lot of fire in her belly. I think I could see her whooping on.
Maybe
him.
that's something I
could
could
see
have
her
on the
whooping
show
on
one
him.
of these days. The poor guys who get beat down by their ladies. Maybe we and you can give these guys some tips on how to not be such a whoop.
I always tell them, take your ladies to a Street Fighter
that.
match and just
Blood
show them who's
sport.
boss.
Got to go down, get some Van Damme, get some blood sport going on.
Yeah. Get the full kumite, bro. If you're gonna do it, you take Chong Li and you make sure that she breaks the bottom brick because the bricks don't hit back.
I don't know. I got a couple thrown at me once, but those kind of do. Now, speaking of that type of stuff, did you used to watch the old kung fu theaters? The old kung fu from the 70s when you were a kid. Did your TV stations out there have kung fu theater?
Yeah, man. I definitely grew up with all the classics. I grew up with Godzilla and Monster Island, where there was baby Godzilla who threw little fireball rings, and I grew up with your Enter the Dragon, Fists of Fury. I spaghetti westerns, the whole nine yards, man. Everything that influenced your Quentin Tarantinos of the world definitely was my childhood influencing. A-Team, you name it, man. Starsky and Hutch. Yeah, man. Chips. I don't know. And not everybody had chips. That was maybe a California thing, but we had chips. It was everything.
I remember Street Hawk, the motorcycle. That was more 80s.
Helicopter?
Little in the 80s, but Street Hawk was good.
Yeah, dude. I remember Street Hawk. Yep.
So tell me,
It's good
you're
times, man.
a little younger than me, and that's okay. I'm kind of the old guy of the area. That's all right. But what was your? That's exactly it. One
your
foot
father
in
time.
front of the other. So what was your first experience? Was it walking into an arcade, or did someone have a video game console? You went to the house. What was the first experience you had with either a console or a handheld? What was your first time seeing something like that?
Man, kind of my whole life, right? So my first was probably
was that your
Atari
your family had it
or
with your friend's house? What was that first time? What is this? And you found out what it was.
Yeah, no, it would have been at my cousin's house. My cousin would have had that, or it was in television, I think was the other one that we had. So classic old school, going to Christmas, You know, we're talking like 84, 85. Who knows where this memory is planted, right? This is a memory of a memory of a memory, right? And I'm just romanticizing it. However, I remember going in and it was the giant controller that had a phone cord connected to the box, and then it had a
Oh
number
yeah, that's in
pad with like
television.
a roll pad at the bottom. And this was the greatest thing since sliced bread, man. You could play baseball and you saw sticks move on a screen. Forget it.
I would say
I
the
was hooked.
television
That was it.
sports type of games. Yeah, television
And then
was the console to have back in those days for sure.
that's classic, man. It's classic. And then, you know, obviously once Nintendo hit the market, forget it, right? That's, you know, everything that you see in that new movie 8-Bit
So
Christmas,
were
that's
you
legit my childhood.
like crying for an NES for Christmas, or you know your parents just bought it for you? Or were you like haunting the hell out of them to get this thing? Oh,
Yeah, no, I didn't get it, man.
oh
My mom was
no!
one of those video games will rot your brain, the whole 9 yards. Yep, yep. I got a Nintendo when Super Nintendo came out. That tells you where I'm at. So it was rough, but luckily my neighbor had a Nintendo with all the games. So was and then the kid down the street as well. So I got to play Nintendo. But once I would say like 1990, now 88, 1988, 89. That's when I started hitting the arcades. So I grew up again in Southern California. I would go to the Montclair Plaza. That was the first. I mean, remember malls, right? Now they're filled with zombies.
Or
You
those
just gotta
killer
go through them
robot
and clean them
gods.
out, right, all day.
There's some
Negan.
killer
But
robot gods.
right, I mean, dude, it's ridiculous. What is Negan supposed to do when he goes to the Montclair Plaza? You can't even find parking. It's filled with zombies. So, nonetheless, back in the day, we would go there, and it was awesome. So I made a friend who worked at the comic book store who was right across the street or across the mall, right? Like literally right across from the arcade. And the arcade was me getting the piss kicked out of me in every fighting game for the first 3 years. And then by, you know, whatever it is, 10,000th hour and $170 later, your boy knew how to play some Street Fighter, right? So I started having fun. From there, man, it was every dry cleaner, every pizza joint, every, you know, back alley arcade. Pac-Man, shout out to Pasadena, man. I mean, it was just where can I find the next fight? As soon as I hit 16, I got a car. This was back in the 90s when you could get a car at 16, and forget it. Like literally,
You
that
drove all the
weekend,
way
we were
to
in
Vegas at
playing
16?
people.
Come on.
So we went nuts. Yeah, dude, for real. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like all the way to Vegas.
Okay.
For real. I lived with my grandma at the time, right? So my grandma was much more lax, right? So all the way to Vegas, partied our ass off, played video games, told her we were staying at Bo's house. We were not at Bo's house. Stayed up, like legit crashing, like in the car in Vegas, doing like the most hood rat I've ever seen, beating people for money
Get
matches
outta
in the
town.
Excalibur arcade. Swear to God. And then driving back on Saturday night, like absolute ass crack of the morning dawn, making it back in time to be like, hey, Sunday church, here we go. Let's go.
That's almost like a hangover, but for real.
Stupid shit, man. Stupid shit kids did, and it was good times. It was definitely good time. We go up to Northern California. There's a place called Sunnyvale. It was like a golf land. It was real big for Street Fighter. We go up there and play people all the time. Be like, all right, let's play money. Let's do this. And that's where some of the best players in the world have come out of. And it sucks because I walked away.
Well, you got to remember,
I walked away.
Our
Parents
told us, video games don't amount to nothing. You're wasting your time. Now there are kids 15 years old making $1 or $2 million in these tournaments. I can't believe it.
It's insane. It's insane. When I saw one of the other motivating factors for when I streamed is when I saw that leak on the Twitch top 100 Twitch streamer salary. Yeah. I was like,
yeah, I think
okay,
we might have joined maybe about
like,
10 years a little late, but there's still a chance. It's an opportunity for sure.
I'll take it, man. And again, if nothing else, it's just for me, it's that cognitive dissonance, right? I went to school for broadcasting and never used it. So an opportunity to put this voice to work, get behind a microphone, in this case, put a camera on it.
That's kind of funny. And, you have that cool toy, and Glenn all have, and Steven as well from the Retro Buzz, all have communication backgrounds. Yeah, this is the shitty setup Glenn has over here. Who the hell figures this dumbass? Anyway, but that's kind of cool. So you went to school for communications, broadcasting, or what'd you do exactly?
Yeah, so my undergrad was broadcasting, and then my major was business comms, right? So graduated from Brown with biz comms, and then originally, stupidly, wanted to be a radio DJ until I realized that they make $12,000 a year and have
Fun
to travel
fact.
state to state every
Fun
6 months.
fact, Glenn
And I was like, oh,
was
this
a
is
DJ for a while
crazy.
on WHD radio in New York for a while. And yeah, they make nothing. You got to haul yourself out to make some money, and they do haul themselves out, let me
No,
tell you.
nothing. Right. I during college I had a small stint working with the local WKRS, the local rock station. All right, let's have fun, and did some tech stuff for one of their DJs and stuff. And I realized quickly, I
Yeah.
was like, this is not an industry that I
You
will
got
thrive
to you
in.
got to be at the bottom for a long
I gotta
time. You
get
got
out
to
of
do
this one quick.
DJing outside of it. You got to build up your name, and that's when you start making some money. You can make good money, but you got to get to a bigger station too. I mean, the station he was at a station in Poughkeepsie, New York, that was at the time was playing Muzak.
Correct.
You know, it was elevated music. You know, he fell asleep
yeah.
more times than I can count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true, man. And it's interesting. Like the other option was maybe going into like a television, but even back then, ugly as sin. So I avoided the camera.
So you
for the
haven't
most
changed
part.
much, have you?
No, it's just gotten fatter.
But now you got all
That's
these emojis you can put over your face and look totally different. So, you know.
I tell you what, man, it helps. It helps a
So,
lot.
what does your
Definitely.
wife enjoy playing? I know you're the fighting games. What games does she enjoy?
So, weirdly
like
enough, she
smuts.
plays shooting
Okay.
games and fighting games. She plays Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5, yep. She's more new school. So like where I'm the retro old school guy, like back in my day, when you lost, it cost you money. She's like, no, dude, I paid for this game. I want to play it, right? So she plays Street Fighter 5 and gets raffle stomped. And then she plays
Vanguard was a good
Vanguard and does pretty good with it, actually. Or not even just Call of Duty. Any Call of Duty shooting. So it's good. Dude, Mike Hawk Hurts says Intellivision is at his
telling you,
uncle's
it
house.
was a good
Check it
system,
out,
but
yo, that's real.
you don't realize it. I remember when my parents got me an Atari 2600 back in the day. You know, it was $199. You don't realize how much that is. But in today's money, that was like $850 my parents had to spend on that. You don't realize how much that stuff really cost.
Right. Not to mention, you didn't get a game when you bought the system. You had to buy a game,
you got a
or
cartridge.
you just got the
Atari
system.
gave you combat, and
like-
television gave you your game for going to Vegas, blackjack and poker. ColecoVision gave you Donkey Kong. You got a game. It wasn't until the NES. Now they're
Fair
like,
enough,
we'll give you a base system.
Fair enough.
Buy it, but they got no game. But you can rent them, I guess, at Blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having to rent the Nintendo, where you went to the local spot and you rented like the briefcase.
Was that next to the
had the
porn
Nintendo
aisle
in
of the
it,
video
and that
store?
was
The porn aisle, the Nintendo was next to it for kid porn type of thing?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they were smart. They knew how to hook the future
So
generation.
what game on the NES had you hooked? What was the game that you you just fell in love with and you played it?
Yeah, NES days, man. I would say there's a few, right? So obviously Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Super Nintendo, or I'm sorry, Zelda, Metroid, like all of the Nintendo classics were really hard for me. Like I loved them. And then like non-traditional, I love me some Castlevania. I love me some Ninja Gaiden. Like those were some of the most hardcore platform ones out there. And then of course, growing up in the days that I did, you had to play Tecmo. You know, whether it was Tecmo Baseball, Tecmo
And those games
Super
are still
Bowl,
those
you know, you
games
had to
even
play Tecmo.
today. The Tecmo
So,
ones are
especially-
still today beloved by people.
Yeah, I actually played my son in Tecmo Bowl, and he stopped playing after I picked Raiders with Bo Jackson, and just showed him like, look, I can run around your entire team. And he was like, okay, I'm done playing this, Dad, and walked away. Love me some Tecmo Bowl.
I was never too good at it, but a lot of people really, really do like that the Tecmo Bowl game. I know a couple friends of mine. They have tournaments now. They know all the different things here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's classic. We used to, I mean, we you get stupid back in the day, right, Negan? You'd have all your buddies. One of my friends had the apartment that was like, hey, he's the first one to have his own spot. And of course, at that point, I think it was Super Nintendo with like Super Tecmo Bowl that had like legit players and seasons where you could trade. I mean, I swear to God, we like wasted weeks of the summer vacations, like just playing out stupid Super Bowl, contenders and just
Now,
having a blast with it.
I said your friend down the street had a game console. You had a lot of friends back then. You still keep in touch with this to this day, or you kind of outgrew friends when you get married.
No, I do. Yeah, it's a good question, man. It's weird. Like you definitely have those friends that you grow, right? And then I do have a few that I'm still in touch with, which is it's weird because they know me when I was a really dumb, really, really dumb kid. And then they saw me as as a 20 something year old maniac. And then they saw me slow down in my 30s, and now they see this old man and they're like, "Oh, he's
Now,
sort of the same, but he's really
Did they know
slow."
you do
So it's
these
nice.
streaming? Did they watch
Yeah,
your show?
I do have a few. A few of them do, yeah. In fact, yeah, and the ones that don't are simply because I haven't talked to them about it yet. So, yeah, every now and then you'll see them pop up in the stream. James Games Jax is one who showed up recently. Shout out to Liam, hadn't seen him in years. There's definitely some friends who are like, "What the hell is
Not
Pop
even asked.
doing?
Do you have
Look
any
at this.
kids?
It's crazy." Yeah, man, too. I got a
And so, how
7-year-old
do they
girl
feel
and a
about
14-year-old
daddy
boy.
and mommy doing these streams and stuff like that, and to tell their friends that their daddy's on the YouTubes?
Yeah. Yeah. So my daughter loves it. She's like, "When do we get to stream, Daddy?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You go back in your room where you'll stay until you're 18." My son is embarrassed fully by both of us, right? Like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this." Like, oh yeah, like midlife crisis, mom and dad, and the 14-year-old son is like, "What the
But
is
now,
going on?"
what's
Oh yeah,
funny,
dude,
I've
it's a
seen,
blast.
Glenn's got his son Cole, and he's the same way. He's like embarrassed, but all his son's friends are like, this thing's great. So, do you get any feedback from their friends that they watch your show or they want to do a tournament with Street Fighter?
Yeah, no, I don't have so the boys' friends, I like we play tabletop games, whether it's, your Magic the Gathering or your Warhammer or whatnot. So like they know I'm a character from that kind of stuff or D&D. I love D&D. But like to see me on the stream, they don't see that because it's so part of it, Negan, is I am a very, very, very hard rated R on Friday nights. So for anybody who thinks that they're going to get this like soft, mellow, well spoken, not using curse words person, no, on Friday nights, I turn into a maniac, like an absolute nut job from 1998 with no filter who just wants to talk trash, have a blast, call people out, just take it back to the old school days of where the original arcade feel was. I guess, truly, like when you think about it, man, the root or like the original inspiration for me was James Games Arcade in Upland, California. It was the arcade that was open till 4 a.m. It was right next to a coffee shop, and it had a Jack in a Box across the street that was open 24/7. So there was every misfit toy within the San Bernardino Valley that would show up at James Games, and I was one of those rejects who was just really, really good at Street Fighter. So when I go back to those days, that's kind of what I'd love to recreate on my stream is just a fun environment where everyone was welcome, and no matter how good or bad you are, someone's going to shit talk you. Even if you're the best, they're going to
Well,
shit
when
talk
you're
you
the best, there's
just
only one way to
because.
go, then, isn't
So
there?
it's good
Down, and
times.
people want to be the one to bring you down.
Yeah, I don't play much. It's weird. So I actually like to highlight the people who are playing, right? I do play. Don't get me wrong. Like the people who play me, they know. They're like, okay, Reb knows. But I don't play on my stream. It's rare that I play on my stream because I cannot play and call a match at the same time. It's when I call a match, I just kind of I have two filters, right, in my brain, like don't get canceled, don't get canceled, those two filters. And then, I just run those filters through and I let my brain go. Like I'm calling anything out. Every reference to a movie from 1977 is coming out. Every book that I read that talks about all animals are created equal, just some are more equal than others. I love it, man. It all just comes flowing out. And it's resonated with at least 300 people. I think I'm up to like 300 subscribers, so that's sweet. But because of that, it's allowed me to be creative, which is a unique feature for somebody who is just good at talking to be creative. Most of the time, you had to be a stand-up comic or something along those lines. This has given me a avenue to be creative and still, use it in a way that is using a platform to create that content. I don't need to write content. I don't need to make content. The content's there. All I got to do is just call it. So it's nice. And, we'll see where I go. Like a lot of people have asked me, hey, are you going to call this? Are you going to call that? Have you thought about just calling life? Like take a camera to a mall, watch people and just call out what's happening and, go back in the studio and record it over. I don't know, man. We'll see. But
yeah, we're going to get more people
it's
to
been a fun
subscribe
ride
to you.
so far.
So if anyone's in the chat right now watching, you definitely want to subscribe to Put Your Quarters on the Glass. If not, I mean, Lucille will have to come by and maybe persuade you. But you definitely should subscribe. He's actually very funny. Probably not for kids. Not that I'm much for kids, but that's all right. That's all right.
Definitely not. Yeah, and I think that's part of, for what it's worth, that's part of my appeal, I think, to some, right? Is there's a lot of PG and there's not a lot of rated R. And so, I present a flavor that you just don't get all the time. And I think in a society today where people are sick of always having to watch what they say, God forbid I say something wrong and someone gets butthurt and runs to the HR office and files a butthurt report against me. It's nice to have a place where it's like, dude, this guy's a maniac. Listen to him just go.
Where would you like to see your channel going to? I mean, is this kind of what you're looking to do? Just expand on what you're doing right now? Or do you have something more larger planned in the future? You just haven't gotten there yet.
I don't know. It's a good question. Obviously, like I said, I'm on the ride of my life right now with this little hobby. Like I never expected this hobby to get like I'm on your show. You asked me to come on. And why? Like, why do you care about my opinion? That is such a weird thing for me. I'm still wrapping my brain around this, right? So I'm just trying to take it day by day and enjoy it. Like Kong is like, yo, I love streaming with you. Like a lot of people have reached out to me to collaborate. And then I've had some professional opportunities that have come up out of this as well, which is cool. So I don't know where it's going to go, but I know that I was always taught that when a door of opportunity is in front of you, you say yes.
Yeah, if you don't take that step, it's always a missed opportunity. If you don't try, if you don't say yes and try, it's basically you're wasting your time, because that one thing leads to another, leads to another, and leads to another. And before you know it, you're maybe in a spot you didn't realize you wanted to be in, but yet you took some steps and got yourself there.
Yeah, and that's how I live my life, right? Like I've never said no, and when things have been right, they've been great, and when things are wrong, I bail out early. Like I know when to hit the evacuation button, right? And not always at the right time, sometimes later than it needed to be, but nonetheless, yeah, and ultimately this is just for fun. Right? Like at the end of the day, the way I look at it, like if we're not having fun doing what we're doing, what are we doing, man? This isn't a job for me. Like I got a career that I got to take. I got a family, I got bills. For me, this is just a creative outlet. And if I can, and what's wild is I have people who have sent me messages who say, yo, dude, your stream on Friday nights makes my week. Like I legitimately turn off TV shows. I turn off like other things that I want to watch for your stream. And that, and at first it was weird because I had like some people tell me, dude, this is awesome. You got to keep doing it. And I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? I was like, these guys are high. Like they're smoking crack. And then like I started to actually research what I do. Like I started to look at like the Capcom Pro Cup tour. I started to research like other people who have done what I do. And I'm like, they suck. Like I am better than them. Like, I'm not trying to shit talk. I'm just being honest. Like, objectively, I can call the match just as fast as you, as accurate as you, and I can add in flavor that nobody can add in. And, and then doing live production on top of that really just puts the cherry on top. And so it helped in that way. And yeah, man, it's been awesome. Never say no. And for those of you guys out there who are hesitating, who are thinking, maybe I ought to do this, maybe I ought to do it. Whatever quirk, whatever little thing you love, accentuate it, man. Highlight it. Make your passion.
Well, I agree. I think anytime you have an opportunity, sometimes you're a little scared or hesitant because like, I don't think I could do this, or why they want to watch me. But you got to try. And when you try, that's when you'll find out what you're really made of and whether or not you can do it. And I think you can. I've seen you streaming with Kongs. I've seen you on Super Game Room Dudes. And I think you're hysterical. I mean, you and when your wife were bantering back and forth, I think it's absolutely hysterical. So I do want to say once again that, put your quarters on the glass on YouTube. Definitely take a look if you haven't seen it already. Subscribe. And we're going to be heading out here because I got to go and teach Glenn a little bit of a lesson about, taking better care of his stuff over here. So just promote anything you want right now. Tell us a bit more about your channel, how they can subscribe, how they can go into these events.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think what I would say is for anybody out there, you can check us out at Put Your Quarters on the Glass on YouTube. You can see us on Twitch under Put Your Quarters on the Glass. And then ultimately, you can also check us out, Retro Fight Game Community, on challenge.com. There's over 40 people from the community who are signed up, who get notifications, who enroll in these tournaments, who participate in these events. The events don't cost you anything other than your ego. So if you're looking for a fun time on Friday nights and you want to participate, you just want to throw in, or maybe you just want to watch a good match, check us out on Put Your Quarters on the Glass, and I appreciate all the support.
I really appreciate you.
Thank
I'll
you
have
very
you
much,
on
Negan.
again. Maybe Glenn will have you on if I let him out. But I really want to thank you for your time. I know he screwed up the time to begin with, so I'm going to talk to him about that as well, my friend. So listen, you have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Monday night. And also everyone out there, Michael B. the Game Genie has a live stream going on at 9 o'clock. You might want to check that out. I think he's talking about that Tron, which, again, looks beautiful. Looks beautiful. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go talk to Glenn right now, and I appreciate your time, my friend.